Hello students, we will be starting the lesson Elements, Compounds and Mixture. In our daily life, we make use of different kinds of matter. The matters available in nature consist of molecules or compound molecules. When these compound molecules are subdivided, elements are obtained. Okay, so the matter that exists in the nature, it consists of molecules or compound molecules. And when these compound molecules are further divided, we get elements. The smallest unit of element is called as the atom. Okay, so the smallest unit of an element is called as the atom. Atom is the smallest unit of an element having the same properties. Okay, atom is the smallest unit of an element having the same properties as that element. Some atoms easily combine with others and form different substances. Depending on the atoms present in a substance, they can be classified as elements, compounds and mixtures. Okay, so depending on what kinds of atoms are present in a substance, they can be classified as elements, compounds or mixtures. So we learned that the matter that is available in nature consists of molecules. Okay, and each of these compound molecules can be made up of different kinds of elements. And the smallest unit of each element is an atom. So I will show you an example to understand this better. So we have learned that water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. So as you can see here, these are the different molecules of water. Okay, and in every molecule you can see there are two atoms of hydrogen, and you can also see there is one bigger atom, that is oxygen. Okay, so this red color one is the oxygen atom and the two white color ones are the hydrogen atoms. So each of these is called as a compound molecule. So each of these is called as a compound molecule. And when you take this compound molecule, you can get individual atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so you can get one and two atoms of oxygen, atoms of hydrogen, and one bigger one is the atom of oxygen. Okay, so the bigger one is the atom of oxygen. So in this particular diagram, what we can see here is this contains a lot of compound molecules. So each and every one of this is a compound molecule. And if you take one compound molecule, you can get two elements from it. The two elements are, as I've shown in white, the hydrogen, and the red one is the oxygen. And this particular molecule, it has two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. After learning this lesson, you will be able to classify the matter into elements, compounds and mixtures. Also, you will recognize the differences between elements, compounds and a mixture. So we will start with element first. So start with elements. Elements are made up of very small particles. These are formed by particles with the same properties. Okay, so these are formed with particles of the same properties. For example, oxygen and hydrogen. Elements cannot be subdivided chemically and cannot be synthesized from other elements. Okay, so if you have oxygen like here, that is it, that is oxygen. You can't get oxygen from hydrogen, or you can't get hydrogen from oxygen. These are individual units. Okay, and you can't subdivide it chemically also. No matter how many times you divide, you will still be left with atoms of oxygen only. Some elements are naturally available while some others are prepared artificially. An example for natural element is gold and artificial element is plutonium. I will show you pictures of gold and plutonium. So, This is a picture of gold. And I will also show you a picture of plutonium. As you can see here, this is plutonium. So this is artificially prepared, whereas gold is naturally available. Okay. Elements are classified as metals and non-metals. You will learn about metals and non-metals in higher classes. Now, let us understand what is the meaning of compounds. When two or more elements combine chemically, compound is formed. Okay, so two or more elements should combine chemically. It is not like you take a plate, you place some gold and silver into it next to each other. So that doesn't mean a compound is formed. They should combine with each other chemically or on an atomic level. There are groups of atoms of different elements in it. Okay, so there are groups of atoms of different elements in it. When two or more elements combine chemically in a specific ratio and form a substance of new property, it is called as compound. So, when two or more elements combine chemically in a specific ratio, there needs to be a specific ratio for the combination, and they should form a substance with new property. That is when you say a compound is formed. For example, water. So as we have learnt, water, it contains two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen. So water is a compound formed by the chemical combination of hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio 2:1. So that means hydrogen is in the ratio 2 and oxygen is 1. For every 2 hydrogen atoms, you have 1 oxygen atom. And molecular formula is used to represent the compound. So for water, the molecular formula is H2O. This means 2H and 1O. This is an image of a water molecule. So you can see here that there is one oxygen atom and there are two atoms of hydrogen. Okay? And they have also given the molecular formula for water, that is H2O. You can see the molecular formula here. To understand the concept of elements and compounds better, look at this picture. Okay, so in the first picture, we can see there are two atoms. One is of red color and one is of blue color. So these atoms have made two elements. They are calling them element Y and element X. Okay, and in the third one, we can see that they have combined together. So one atom of element X has combined with two atoms of element Y. And this is known as chemical combination. This is when a compound is said to be formed. However, if you can take a look in the second picture, although the atoms are present together, they haven't combined chemically. So this means there is no compound formation. We will learn about mixtures in the next section. So we learned that molecular formula is used to represent a compound. And next, know this. Representing the number of atoms in a molecule using chemical symbols is called as the molecular formula. So like we represented H2O with number of hydrogen atoms and number of oxygen atoms. Right, so that is called molecular formula. Molecular formula represents the elements of a compound as well as the number of atoms. A compound does not possess the property of its constituent substances. Okay, so it does not possess the property of its constituent atoms. So if a compound like water, it's made up of hydrogen and oxygen, the properties of water will be different from properties of hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, for example, sugar is made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. But sugar does not possess the property of any of these properties. Okay, but sugar does not possess any of their properties. Their constituents of compounds cannot be separated easily. Okay, so Sugar does not have any properties of its constituents elements. I will show you the atomic formula for sugar. So as you can see here, sugar has carbon, hydrogen and oxygen present in it. But the properties are very different from the elements. In the next activity, know this. Take sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is common salt, the table salt that we use for our cooking. Okay. Take sodium chloride, which is used in daily life. It is a compound formed by sodium and chlorine. Though both sodium and chlorine are poisonous, so sodium and chlorine, they are very poisonous to human beings. And salt is made of sodium and chloride. Is salt poisonous to us? No. The salt formed by their combination is not poisonous and we use it in our daily lives. So from this we understand that a compound does not possess the properties of its constituent substances. Next, let us learn about mixtures. We see many mixtures in our daily life. Mixtures are substances that contain two or more substances. Okay, so mixtures are substances that contain two or more substances. If two or more substances are mixed together in any ratio such that they do not undergo any chemical change but retain their individual properties, then the resulting substance is called as mixture. Okay, so two or more substances should combine and the ratio of their combination does not matter. So in any ratio they can combine, but they should not undergo any chemical changes. So they should not undergo any chemical changes. Also, they should retain their individual properties. Then the resulting substance is called as a mixture. If they do not retain their individual properties, then it would have become a compound. So if the ratio was specific and if the individual properties were lost, then it is a compound. But if they retain their individual properties, then it is a mixture. So for example, soil is a mixture of sand, clay, many types of salts and residues of plants and animals. So if you go out and if you get some soil and closely examine it, you can see that it is made up of different types of particles. One, you will get sand, then you might get small stones, then you get clay, maybe you get leaves or any other residues of plants and animals. So soil is a mixture because you can separate them easily and they have retained their original properties. So sand is still sand and the stones are still stone. Okay, so soil is an example for a mixture. Now we can understand this image very well. So you have two elements, element X and element Y. Element X is shown in red color and element Y is shown in blue color. In the mixture of element X and element Y, you can see that the individual atoms of element X and element Y, they are not present together. Okay, so this is one atom of X and this is one atom of Y. They are present separately. Okay, so in this case, the properties of element X and element Y would be retained in this mixture. And in the compound, like we learned, they have combined in a specific ratio, that is 1 element X to 2 element Y. In this case, they would have formed different chemical properties and this is a compound. So instead of doing a quiz, we will answer the questions they have already given in this lesson. The first question is, element consists of a group of same type of dash. So you can think about it and pause the video if you need time to think. Elements consist of a group of same type of dash. So we saw in this picture that there are two elements present, element X and element Y, and each of them contain the same type of atoms. The red color balls in element X, they represent atoms of element X. Okay, so element consists of a group of same type of atoms. Next, compounds consist of a group of atoms of different dash. So compounds consist of a group of atoms of different dash. You can see here that the compound, it consists of atoms of different elements. Okay, so compound consists of elements X and Y here. Okay, so the answer for that question is compounds consist of a group of atoms of different elements. Then the question is, a compound is dash. You have to define what a compound is. You can find the definition under the compound section of this lesson. I have just copied the definition from the section for you. So a compound is dash. When two or more elements combine chemically in a specific ratio and form a substance of new property, it is called a compound. Okay? When two or more elements combine chemically in a specific ratio and form a substance of a new property, it is called a compound. The next question is, a mixture is dash. You can find the definition in the mixture part of the lesson. And copy the definition for you. If two or more substances, these substances can be elements or compounds, are mixed together in any ratio such that they do not undergo any chemical change but retain their individual properties, then the resulting substance is called a mixture. In the next question, you have to give 5 examples for each of these. So, let us give 5 examples for elements. You can think about this yourself. I will just give you examples to help you out. So, during our lesson air, we saw that we need oxygen to breathe in. I'm just reminding you of this fact. Okay, so oxygen is an element. Also, other elements that we have learnt about include carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, gold, iron also is an element. And we also learned that there is an artificially occurring element that is prepared by us. So you can think of that example and write it down here. Next, think of 5 compounds. So common examples for compounds include salt, sugar, water. Then you can also give examples of carbon dioxide, and I will teach you another compound. So you know quicklime. This is known as sunna in Kannada. Okay, quicklime is also a compound with formula CaO. Okay, so this is also a compound. Next, for mixtures, one mixture that we all know about is soil. So we just learned that soil is a mixture. Next, air is also a mixture. Okay, so air is a mixture of different gases. Next, seawater is a mixture because it contains various types of salts in it. Okay, and another example for a mixture that you can find around you, I'll just give you this example so you understand what a mixture is. It's fruit salad. The fruit salad, it consists of different types of fruits in it, and all of them would have their initial taste only. So apples will be tasting like apples, bananas will be tasting like bananas, and etc. So another example for mixture is fruit salad. I will leave out the last examples of mixture for you so you can think and write. In the next section, we are learning that element, compounds and mixture may be solid, liquid or gases. So they can be present in any state of matter. And here we have an examples for different states of matter for each of elements, compounds and mixture. So a solid element can be iron, okay. A liquid element is mercury. Mercury is an element which is present in liquid form in room temperature also, okay. And a gaseous element is oxygen. Next, a solid compound is sugar. So we learned that sugar is made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So it is in solid form, correct? So an example for solid compound is sugar. Next, liquid compound is water. So water is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen. So liquid compound is water. And gaseous compound is carbon dioxide at room temperature. Carbon dioxide is made up of carbon and oxygen. Next, an example for solid mixture is soil, like we learned. An example of liquid mixture is seawater. Okay, so seawater is an example for liquid mixture. And an example for gaseous mixture is air. Okay, air is an example for gaseous mixture. Next, let us understand the differences between compounds and mixtures. So this is the difference between compounds and mixtures. Compounds. When two or more elements combine, chemically compounds are formed. So there needs to be a chemical combination for the formation of compounds. And when two or more substances mix physically, it is called as mixture. Okay, so mixture is when two or more substances mix physically. Like we saw in our picture, there is a chemical combination in case of compounds where you can see that the atoms, they are bonded with each other. So the blue ones are bonded with the red ones. Okay, but in case of mixture, the blue ones and red ones are different. So they are separately staying. This is why in mixture there is only a physical combination. Next, the constituents of compounds are combined in a definite proportion. Okay, so there needs to be a definite proportion for the mixture. Sorry, for the constituents of a compound. But for the constituents of a mixture, it can be mixed in any proportion. Okay, the constituent substances of a compound do not retain their original properties after combination. Whereas the constituent substances of a mixture, they retain their individual properties. So we saw that compounds like water, which is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, do not have any properties of hydrogen or oxygen, right? But the constituents of a mixture, they retain their original properties. Next, the constituents of a compound cannot be separated with simple methods without chemical reactions. So this is a new point that you are learning. Any compound like water or salt, it has its constituent elements, correct? You cannot separate the individual elements of a compound easily. So if I give you water and ask you, get me hydrogen and oxygen from it, will you be able to do it without any chemical reactions? No, right? So the constituents of a compound cannot be separated by simple methods. But the constituents of a mixture can be separated. Okay, so the constituents of a mixture, they can be separated by simple methods. For example, if I give you soil and ask you to separate the sand and the stones, you will be able to do it easily, no, with your hands. So that is why constituents of a mixture can be separated by simple methods. Okay, students, this is the end of the lesson, elements, compounds and mixtures.